Amazing discovery. Soldier and K9 expose the touching truth behind a little girl's hidden pain. David strolled through the park of Maplewood, Nebraska, Rex trotting ahead, chasing every crunch of a fallen leaf. The laughter of children filled the air, a joy so bright, yet it trapped him in shadows he couldn't escape. Home, yes, but different, haunted. Memories flickered like film reels in his mind, sights and sounds of distant gunfire, echoes of orders barked amidst chaos. Back among the living, he felt the invisible weight of his own scars, heavier than any vest he'd worn. And yet the laughter of children? It took his breath, twisted his gut. The sight of a little girl on a swing caught his eye. Lily, bright-eyed and innocently spinning, felt like a million miles away from him. The contrast struck him. Her carefree laughter danced with the wind, yet there was an undeniable sorrow lingering in her gaze when she thought no one was watching. He noted the way her joy was marred, a reflection of something deep within, something that stirred a protective urge in David. Could he really interfere in a child's life, knowing the kind of battles he still faced himself? "Hey, Rex. You see her?" he whispered. Rex turned, senses attuned to David's tension, and they both moved toward the girl, curiosity piqued. Days passed. David encountered whispers of despair, mere glances revealing cracks in Lily's cheerful demeanor. Taunts from her peers due to her family struggles left her loneliness stark and profound. How could he, a soldier who faced enemies head-on, back down from this battle? He felt he could fight for her. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But supporting her, guiding her, was he equipped for that? Could he confront the bullies, tell the principal about the injustices? The thought made him recoil. He sighed deeply, wrestling with conflicting emotions that churned like a heavy storm in his gut. He could be brave for her and risk the fallout, or step back and let her find her own way, steeped in resilience but vulnerable to more hurt. The lingering effects of combat haunted him. What if he failed her? Wasn't he every combat vet trained to protect, yet so often lost themselves in the fight? His resolve strengthened when he decided to guide Lily through art, a chance for her voice to emerge vibrant and undeniable. He would help showcase her talent. The thought ignited something inside him. A glimmer of hope. But he also felt fear contracting his chest. Would this venture yield strength or bury her deeper in pain? He could practically feel the stakes mark his every heartbeat. The road ahead was fraught with anxiety, but he steeled himself, imagining the moment Lily would shine. Yet as days wound down, whispers of the hostility surrounding her surfaced, threatening not just her bloom, but also his courage as a protector. Standing at this crossroads ignited his usual fight-or-flight instinct, and he found himself paralyzed. Could he face this monstrous fear of failure when both their lives were entwined in uncertain fates? David met Rex's knowing eyes, the dog sensing his owner's turmoil, pawing the ground, urging him forward. Was he about to take the greatest leap of his life, only to risk a fall? An icy dread consumed him just as Lily approached, a canvas grasped tightly in her small hands. Her voice lilted with hope and expectation. "Mr. David, will you come?" And in that simple question, a flood of tension erupted within him, a chaotic montage of battles, his, hers, and all the silent cries that echoed between them. How wide the chasm of fear loomed ahead, thickening the air. The truth lay just beyond, enticing and terrifying all at once, leaving David to question everything he thought he could bravely face. David's heart raced not just with anxiety but with an unfamiliar stir of purpose as he gazed at Lily, her small frame so full of life and hope while heavy shadows loomed behind him. At this moment, he felt caught between the present and a past that refused to let go. Could he step into her world, even as his own seemed ready to unravel? "Sure, Lily, I'll come," he finally managed to say, the words both liberating and confining. He felt Rex's presence shift slightly, a subtle affirmation that they were a team in this endeavor, whatever it may turn out to be. As they walked toward her makeshift art space, a shaded corner of the park lined with colorful canvases displaying Lily's bright imagination, his mind raced with the weight of expectations. He had only just decided to step outside of his own tangled emotions to help someone else. Did he truly possess the strength to do so? The lingering shadow of his past combat experiences wove itself into his thoughts, cautions echoing that he was teetering on the edge of the unknown. Lily set the canvas down with a flourish, her small hands moving animatedly as she described her vision. "It's a tree, but not just a tree. It's a magic tree with friends who talk to each other." Her eyes sparkled, innocence and determination warring to define her reality. David studied her features, the way the corners of her mouth twisted with an unspoken burden. Here was a child fighting invisible battles. "You know, trees are strong," he said, attempting to steer the conversation toward strength. "They grow tall, they survive storms." He felt as if he were speaking to himself, each syllable echoed lessons he had learned in battle, coping mechanisms he barely grasped but fulfilled a purpose of connection. Lily's excitement faltered, and her gaze dropped to the ground. "But I'm not strong, Mr. David. I can't make the bullies go away." A hollowness pierced through David's heart. A child's pain, so layered yet so simple. In her admission, he recognized his own fears mirrored in her fragility. The tension coiled tighter. "Maybe you don't have to fight alone. I can help." "I do like that," she whispered, her voice barely audible, yet it ignited a warmth in his chest. Suddenly, the act of helping her didn't seem like a glittering load, but a shared journey, an opportunity for his own healing intertwined with hers. They spent the afternoon creating. David relaxed more than he thought possible, his brush working colors onto the canvas as Lily narrated her story. Art became their language, turning their vulnerabilities into vivid strokes. Yet, in the back of his mind, thoughts of confrontation with the bullies simmered. How could he encourage her courage while shouldering his own doubts? An impending uncertainty loomed like shadows darkening the sun. As the day drew to a close, they stepped back to survey their work, a collaborative effort depicting a tree surrounded by whimsical creatures, alive and vibrant. The simple act of creation forged a bond, but an unsettling thought gnawed at him. "Every tree needs roots," he remarked softly, "to stay strong." There was profound meaning in the statement. Could he help her cultivate those roots? Or would he ultimately fail them both? Lily turned to face him, her expression shifting from joy to uncertainty. "Will the roots keep me from being hurt?" David hesitated. The answer hung on the edge of his tongue, but clarity escaped him, threading doubt through his own answers. They could build this together, yet he feared harmony was a fragile shell, too close to shatter. "Let us make those roots stronger," he pledged, his voice steady but his heart racing with uncertainty. This was not just an artistic journey, it was the beginning of new battles. As they gathered their supplies, planning for the next session, a voice cut through the pleasant air like a knife. "Hey, weirdo and loser." The taunt slammed against David's resolve. He turned to see a group of older children, arrogance beaming from their faces. Energy shifted. A confrontation loomed before him, a test he hadn't anticipated. Would he stand up and protect Lily, risking exposure of his deeper struggles? The moment pulsated with intensity, drawing him shakily forward into a choice that stretched beyond mere words. The moment of truth loomed. Would he confront the shadows, or retreat into the safety of silence? The words hung in the air, charged with an unyielding challenge. As David faced the jeering group, he felt an electric current of fear mixed with an unfurling determination. This was not just about him anymore, it was about Lily, her fragile spirit now tethered to his decision. He took a breath, tasting the crispness of the autumn air, a reminder that the seasons change, but some cycles feel unending. "Leave her alone." The word surprised him, tumbling out with a clarity that was both empowering and frightening. The confidence he had so long buried was rising, roaring to life. With Lily by his side, the embarrassment of being labeled a loser felt less daunting, weighed down by a sense of responsibility that eclipsed his own fears. The leader of the group smirked, his bravado unfaltering. "Or what? You gonna cry about it, Mr. Tough Guy?" His words dripped with mockery, wrapping around David's resolve and threatening to squeeze. In the silence that followed, David noticed Lily's small hand tighten around his arm, a fleeting contact that sent a rush of warmth through him. He glanced down at her, and in that moment, he saw not just the child who felt powerless, but the reflection of a younger version of himself, yearning for support at a time when solace seemed scarce. Could he be the anchor she needed? Gracelessly, David stepped closer, every nerve ending on alert, considering the implications of his next decision. "I won't let you push her around. You'll find there's a consequence for your actions." The bullies exchanged glances, confusion flickering across their faces as the bravado was slowly stripped away. David's heart raced, anticipation mingled with doubt. Each pulse carried the weight of his past blunders, unresolved regrets shimmying to the surface. Fear knotted in his stomach, reawakening the cowardice he thought he had conquered. But something shifted within him. This moment didn't just demand physical bravery, it beckoned him to confront his own demons. Lily was watching, her eyes wide, waiting for a sign. He couldn't fold now. Not when she needed him the most. Is someone afraid of a little competition? The challenge sliced the tension, unsettling the group. The leader moved closer, trying to intimidate, but David stood firm. He reminded himself that standing still was still a form of action. His past may have rendered him silent in the face of cruelty, but today was different. "No, I'm afraid of what happens if I stand by and let you bully her, and every other kid like her." The words were flat and fierce, unyielding. To his surprise, the leader flinched. A ripple of uncertainty crossed the group, and within that moment, David felt the tug of something greater emerging, a specific courage honed by an understanding of pain, both his and Lily's. He shifted his stance slightly to shield Lily, offering her the protection she deserved. She looked up, her expression shifting from fear to burgeoning hope. "You really mean it?" she whispered, barely breaking the silence. In that instant, David affirmed a complicit decision. It wasn't merely about fending off a group of bullies, it was about evolving from the shadows of his own anxiety into the light of purpose, fully aware that each choice would grow deeper roots for both of them. This was his battleground. Yet even in this moment of resolve, he sensed that a greater test awaited him. Deep down, the echo of his anxiety reminded him that change would not come easily, that the next encounter might not end so favorably. The reflection of his past loomed over him like a storm cloud threatening to break. "Let us go, we're wasting time," the leader finally said, backing down, but the shadows retained a haunting grip on David's mind. The confrontation was only a temporary reprieve, a momentary victory over simmering doubts. As the taunting faded, an undercurrent of excitement and dread surged through him, weaving into his thoughts. "Tomorrow, we can plan how to make those roots stronger," he whispered to Lily, as they turned toward home. Their journey had just begun, and he felt the weight of the ground shifting beneath them. Would they truly grow together, or would the doubts resurface to pull them apart? As they walked away from the remnants of confrontation, David's mind raced with strategies and possibilities. What other battles awaited them? What depths of his past required unearthing to ensure a brighter future? Tomorrow would promise more than just art. It would reveal answers that shook the very foundations of what he believed about strength and vulnerability, both in oneself and in others. The morning sun spilled through the window, illuminating the remnants of yesterday's turmoil in David's mind. He sat at the kitchen table, a mug of lukewarm coffee cradled in his hands. The faint echoes of the bullying confrontation lingered like a melody he couldn't shake, reverberating in his thoughts as he tried to strategize the day ahead. As he watched Lily, bright-eyed and animated, sketching in her notebook at the counter, a sense of purpose began to burgeon within him. Yet, beneath that burgeoning determination lurked a familiar unease. What if he faltered again? What if his newfound resolve crumbled when faced with the next challenge? "Can we work on our project after school today?" "I've got some ideas," Lily chirped, her enthusiasm tangible. "Yeah, let us do that," David replied, surprised by the certainty in his voice. It wasn't just a routine decision, it was a commitment to both her and himself. He wanted to be her protector, her guide, not just from bullies, but from the shadows within him that had long dictated his actions. The day unfolded with a peculiar pace. Each class felt oppressive with a weight of anticipation, and David's thoughts meandered through memories of his childhood, the helplessness of feeling invisible, of wanting to matter. The fear that had held him captive whispered doubt into his ear, urging him to retreat. But he knew he couldn't indulge it anymore, not if he wanted to foster growth. At lunchtime, he joined his friends in the cafeteria, but the atmosphere felt strained. Amid jokes and laughter, he noticed a tension in the air, a recognition that their previous ease was now laced with unspoken anxieties. Their recent empowerment felt fragile, like ice poised to crack. As their laughter rose and fell, David found himself more of an observer, carefully weighing every conversation. "You okay, man?" June asked, concern evident in her gaze. "Just thinking," David replied, steering the conversation. "You ever wish we could do something bigger? Like really stand up for people who can't?" His words hung in the air, sparking a flicker of curiosity among his friends. They quickly warmed to the idea, but his mind raced ahead, envisioning a world where they couldn't just stop at words. He sought action, a plan beyond the temporary victories. After school, David and Lily convened in his garage, a transformed space teeming with art supplies and creativity, a stark contrast to the shadows of his past. He invited her to share her ideas, eager to learn how they could channel their experiences into tangible action. "We could create a mural," she exclaimed, her voice bubbling with excitement. "Something about standing up for others." As they sketched together, something shifted within David. Each stroke of the pencil felt like a revelation, unearthing layers of resilience he'd buried during years of silence. Their project became an extension of their shared purpose, a physical manifestation of their resolve to reclaim their stories. "David?" Lily's voice interrupted his train of thought, and his heart raced when he noticed her hesitation. "Do you think the bullies will come back?" The question hung taut between them, exposing the raw nerves beneath their budding confidence. David took a breath, recalling the moment of confrontation. "I think they will, but it's not about them anymore. It's about how we handle it next time." In that moment, he realized his own development was intertwined with Lily's. Each engaging discussion, every ounce of enthusiasm, was vital fuel for their growth. He needed to find ways to strengthen them both, to expose the hidden vulnerabilities they could together overcome. That evening, as they admired their early sketches, a fire lit within David. He felt hallowed by a dawning understanding of his potential. But lurking just beyond the fragile veil of newfound courage was a looming confrontation, the one waiting for them outside the bubble of safety they had begun to construct. Would their evening of creativity turn into another day of reckoning? He stood in silence, acutely aware that tomorrow they would not only face their critics but also their own inner doubts. The moment for profound revelation approached. David could sense it, an impending storm brewing. How would he navigate that turbulent landscape where vulnerability met strength? Would fear give way to empowerment, or would it all come crashing down around them? The following morning felt different. As David stood in front of the mirror, the reflection staring back at him seemed unfamiliar yet invigorating. He noticed determination dancing in his eyes, a stark contrast to the insecurity that had often clouded them. Today, he felt ready to face whatever lay ahead. As he made his way to school, the vibrant world around him buzzed with energy, yet his heart thudded heavily amid his newfound resolve. He replayed his commitment in his mind, not just to Lily but to himself, like a mantra that strengthened him. The mantra pushed him. This was not just about confronting the bullies or the doubts plaguing him, it was about reclaiming his narrative. Upon arriving at school, he was greeted by familiar sounds and sights, but they felt different. The air vibrated with anticipation, his peers moving about, either unaware of the impending confrontation or preparing themselves. David wondered how many of them masked their fears, just like he had done for years. The weight of expectations loomed heavily. In homeroom, the atmosphere transformed. Whispers ricocheted around the classroom, eyes darting toward the door, and David knew that the whispers carried stories, echoes of uncertainty just like his. It was a reminder that he wasn't alone. Some students exchanged glances, confirming there was something looming. David steeled himself. Whatever happened today would not only impact him but also everyone around him. Suddenly, the door swung open, and there they were, outspoken, dismissive, the embodiment of everything David had tried to overcome. The bullies strutted in, their laughter a sharp contrast to the growing tension. David's stomach turned as their eyes roamed the room, occasionally landing on him, the warmth of their disdain palpable. He could feel the familiar chill of fear creeping in, but he crushed it down. The sketches with Lily glowed within his mind, illuminating his path forward. Throughout the morning classes, David's thoughts swirled. He couldn't shake the feeling that their mural was not just an art project but a manifestation of something larger, a stand against those who had tried to define his worth through their cruelty. Every word exchanged between the bullies felt heavier, imbued with meaning. It wasn't just about them, it was about redefining the narrative. When the lunch bell rang, David navigated through the crowded hallways with Lily at his side. They slipped into their usual spot, but the biting tension from earlier hung like a pall. Regardless, they needed to strategize, to keep moving forward. "We can't let them keep us in the shadows," David asserted, a newfound clarity fortifying his words. "Our mural, we're telling our story, right? They can't define us unless we let them." As Lily considered his words, David decided then to further bolster their commitment. He envisioned posters illustrating their joint message in the hallways. They could invite others to share their stories. After all, each person had a tale worth telling. What if they all came together, joined forces against the silence that had plagued them? Inspiration ignited within him, urging him forward. But before he could voice this evolving idea, David noticed a commotion outside the cafeteria. He leaned in closer, heart racing as he caught sight of the bullies cornering a quieter student, their laughter cruel and taunting. In that moment, David's pulse quickened not with fear, but with an urge to act. The awareness rippling through his being transformed into a palpable force. He exchanged a glance with Lily, and together, they approached the scene. A whisper of fear coiled deep within him, but what if this was their moment to step into the light? As they drew closer, an unexpected clarity emerged. With every step, the lingering doubt gave way to a rush of courage. David realized he was not just fighting for himself or even for Lily, he was standing up for those who felt voiceless. This confrontation would test him in ways he could have never imagined. Would he be able to confront the bullies directly? Could he navigate the complexities of standing up for others while conquering his own fears? The time had come to face not just the bullies, but to confront the person he had always been, the silent bystander. As the distance closed, David felt the embrace of possibility around him, and the moment of truth awaited, shifting everything in its wake. David's heart raced as he approached the group of bullies, the weight of expectation solidifying into firm resolve. He could hear their mocking laughter reverberating off the cafeteria walls, each snicker a blow to the quieter student in the middle. It was a pivotal moment, one that would define who he was becoming. But as he neared, something unexpected washed over him, a sense of urgency mixed with clarity. In this moment, he was no longer the scared boy he had been. He was transforming, compelled not only by a desire to protect the student but by a commitment to become his own advocate. Fear didn't evaporate, but it shifted into something more potent: purpose. "Hey!" His voice emerged louder than he intended, cutting through the laughter. The bullies paused, turning their smirks towards him, eyes filled with surprise. An avalanche of thoughts raced through David's mind. What if they dismissed him? What if he faltered? But somewhere beneath that rush of anxiety lay a flicker of belief. This was necessary. What's so funny? David pressed, the courage in his tone surprising even himself. The lead bully took a step forward, eyebrow raised in an expression of contempt. Oh look, it's the art kid. You here to paint a pretty picture for us? The taunt was met with laughter from his cohorts, but David felt an unexpected surge of strength pushing him forward. No, he replied, his voice unwavering. I'm here to tell you to stop. You don't get to treat people like this. Not anymore. The words hung in the air, heavy with challenge. David could feel his heart pounding, could almost see the inflection point of the moment. The hush that settled felt electrifying, a void filled solely with anticipation and conflict. In the wake of his declaration, an unfamiliar sensation coursed through him. This was empowerment, an affirmation of self-worth that he had long deprived himself of. It was as though he were standing before a mirror, challenged to confront the reflection beyond his fear. The lead bully's smirk faltered, just briefly, allowing a sliver of doubt to weave through his bravado. David sensed the flicker, the possibility that collective complicity could fracture. It emboldened him. What do you gain from this? You think it makes you better? Stronger? It just makes you small. As the words poured out, he felt the presence of the quieter student behind him, and the invisible bonds of solidarity forming. For the first time, he wasn't alone, even in conflict. Those who had often drifted through the shadows began to gravitate toward the unfolding confrontation. They reflected the very lamplight that Lily had ignited within him. The tension cracked like the final stroke of a brush, leaving room for an unexpected respite. Would others join him? David turned slightly, scanning the crowd of students who had paused to witness this defining moment. Their eyes flicked between him and the bullies, weighing the gravity of the situation. None of us are going to keep quiet anymore, he declared, and for a brief instant, he caught Lily's encouraging nod from the fringe of the crowd. The connection fueled him. Every one of us has a story. And together, those stories matter more than your petty taunts. With a jolt, the lead bully reacted, his anger spewing out like poison. You think you're tough? It's cute watching you try. His bravado faltered as he gauged the shifting tides. More peers were murmuring agreement, rallying behind David's words. In that electrifying heartbeat, David understood, real strength was not just in speaking up but in standing firm among uncertainties. His heart pounded with adrenaline, however, the approach of a crucial choice loomed ahead. With every pulse of resolve that coursed through him, he sensed the weight of individual responsibility. Had he truly found his voice, or was this merely the beginning of a longer journey? As he prepared to address the crowd again, David felt the ground shift beneath him. The bullies weren't just a personal nemesis, they exhibited a common battle, one he had finally recognized for what it was. The next step would define him even further. What would it mean for him and the others watching? The moment of clarity entered an unsettling pause, suggesting potential pitfalls and triumphs ahead. As he steadied his breath, the decision loomed closer, not just for him, but for everyone gathered. Would they rise with him, or would fear still tether them to silence? The bell rang, but it echoed within David, reverberating the question that remained: was this confrontation merely a spark, or would it ignite a lasting change among his peers? As David's gaze swept across the cafeteria, a palpable shift rippled through the audience in front of him. The atmosphere throbbed with a tense expectancy, and the memories of his past, the countless times he had buried his head in sketchbooks rather than face ridicule, flared anew, but this time as a contrasting backdrop to his newfound resolve. He took a deep breath, realizing that this moment wasn't just about confronting the bullies. It was an introduction to himself. Look, I know who I used to be, he said, his voice steadying. I hid in corners, kept quiet while others suffered. But that's over. We don't have to let these moments define us. We have the power to change them. The lead bully's sneer drew tighter, but beneath the surface, David saw confusion flicker across the faces of his peers. What had they expected? A half-hearted attempt at bravado? Yet, even with his heart racing, he couldn't dismiss the power of the hold he had on the moment. Every single one of you has something to say, something that matters. It's time to step out of the shadows, David urged, his voice gaining a gravelly edge. We're not powerless. Together, we can rewrite our stories. Encouraged by his own words, he turned, locking eyes with the student he had defended moments earlier. They shared a silent agreement, and David felt a sense of kinship deepen, a strength woven from shared experiences of isolation. Let us use our voices, David continued, movement circulating through the crowd as whispers began to amplify the heartbeat of his message. You might think it's easier to laugh along, but trust me, laughter doesn't come from strength, it comes from fear. Around him, heads nodded, uncertain but intrigued, as if that flicker of hope was contagious. A small chuckle emerged from a student. It was hesitant, but it transformed into a ripple of genuine snickers of recognition around the room. Suddenly, the lead bully sprang forward, scorn etched across his features. You think you're a hero now? It's sad watching you try. His words dripped with venom, but David could read the alarm beneath that bravado. Fear was creeping into the bully's voice, an acknowledgement of power slipping away. Does it scare you? David shot back, feeling emboldened. If so, maybe that fear reveals something about you. The words felt liberating. He was no longer just talking about the rest of the student body, he was opening a dialogue aimed straight at his aggressor. The cafeteria felt small, the walls closing in around them as he stepped up, voice unwavering. This confrontation was not solely about him, it marked the commencement of something larger. He felt someone brush past him, a girl, joining in support, and behind her, several brave whispers escalated into a unison of murmurs. The weight of shared experiences hung in the air. The lead bully faltered, glancing around as more students rallied and voices collided in a chorus challenging the perceived hierarchy. David sensed the balance shifting further, and with every challenge thrown at the bullies, he felt a growing stature within himself. Yet, as exhilaration coursed through him, a deep thrum of anxiety gnawed at his gut. What if the tide turned again? What if backlash ensued? David understood that his small victory was only the ignition, not the resolution. As their eyes locked once more, he bore the weight of their collective courage, and the understanding washed over him. This was just the beginning. The moment anchored him, but it also led him further afield. Could he continue to confront not only his fears but the complexities of relationships around him? In that instant, with echoes of rising camaraderie and a lingering threat of retaliation, he realized he was standing at another crossroad. What would his next move be? Would he rally this newfound strength into something sustainable, or would the comfort of retreat pull him back? As the bell's rhythm faded, a different question loomed larger. How would he sustain this change when the atmosphere grew heavy again? The bell rang, a sharp chime that punctured the charged atmosphere, dismissing the students from the cafeteria. David stood momentarily frozen, adrenaline still buzzing in his veins. He had spoken out, but what now? The initial surge of bravery was tempered by uncertainty, a quiet dread whispering that this was just the beginning of a deeper battle. As he maneuvered through the throng of students, murmurs of encouragement mingled with skeptical laughter. The shift in perception felt tangible, but amidst the cacophony, David noticed the lingering gaze of the lead bully, who appeared less menacing among the crowd. The facade of confidence was cracking, and David's heart raced at the thought of what it could mean, a shift in power that he barely understood. Outside, the sun bathed the school in an unwelcome brightness. David's mind was a storm of thoughts, each one crashing into the next. He found a secluded spot under a tree, a place where he could collect his scattered emotions. The memory of standing up against the bully felt exhilarating yet haunting, a reminder that courage had its consequences. Had he truly altered anything, or merely stirred the pot? Contemplating his next steps, David breathed slowly. Facing the bully had ignited something within him, but could he build on that momentum? What did strength mean now? In that moment, he questioned not only his past, he confronted the murky waters of potential future interactions. Relationships with his peers had never been easy, always fraught with uncertainty, apprehension, and the ever-present fear of misjudgment. He remembered the girl who had stood alongside him, her eyes bright with cautious optimism. Perhaps forging connections was key. He had the ability to influence others, he just had to embrace it. David envisioned himself creating a safe space, a network of support where empathy could flourish without fear. The seeds of an idea began to germinate, perhaps a club that focused on creative expression, a place where students could voice their struggles through art, writing, or discussion. But who was he to spearhead such an endeavor? Doubt throbbed in his chest. Was he equipped with the right tools? David pondered his talent for sketching, for bringing life to his imagination through art. Could he use that as a catalyst for change? The thought shimmered before him, a tantalizing possibility. Maybe if he could channel their shared experiences into collective expression, he could create a ripple effect of honesty and vulnerability. Yet, he could also hear the soft voice of self-doubt echoing. How would he handle the inevitable backlash of criticism? Just as insecurity threatened to anchor him down, a moment of clarity pierced through. He could invite others to join him in vulnerability. It wasn't just about him standing tall, it was about fostering an environment where everyone felt empowered to share their truths. There was power in storytelling, in creating a tapestry woven from various threads of experience. As David envisioned gathering students for his idea, he felt a flicker of excitement. The path ahead was uncharted, but he sensed he had changed enough to navigate it. Suddenly, a shadow loomed above him, and he looked up to see the very girl who had supported him earlier. "I saw what you did back there," she said, her voice steady. "It was brave. I've thought about doing something too, something for everyone like us." His pulse quickened. Was this the moment his idea could take flight? But with hope coursing through him came a flood of apprehension. What if she brought more bullies with her, or worse, others who didn't support the change he envisioned? I have an idea," he stammered, a mix of anticipation and reluctance twisting in his gut. As they exchanged ideas, David realized that forging a path forward wouldn't just depend on his actions alone, every voice mattered. But as their conversation deepened, a chilling thought crept into his mind. Would stepping into this new role also bring back shadows from his past? How far was he willing to go to confront the ghosts he thought were behind him? The urgency of the moment loomed. He had to decide. David's heart drummed in his chest as the girl, whose name he vaguely recalled as Maya, leaned closer, the sunlight catching the strands of her hair and creating a halo-like effect. It struck him how vulnerable this moment felt, two students, standing beneath the boughs of a tree, flirting with the notion of change. But a voice inside him wrestled against the tide of optimism, as his thoughts spiraled back to previous encounters laden with disappointment and ridicule. "What are you thinking?" Maya's inquiry pulled him back to the present, her gaze unwavering. The sincerity in her eyes both thrilled and terrified him. He could see his own uncertainty reflected in her expression. We could create a space for people to express themselves creatively," David proposed, his own voice surprising him. The words tumbled out, each syllable breaching the tense air that clung around them, like stepping onto precarious ground. A club where everyone can share their art, their stories without judgment. The spark of possibility lit up in Maya's eyes, and her smile widened, but David could almost feel the weight of unspoken doubts creeping back. What if this was just another dream that would dissolve under scrutiny? What if they failed before they even started? Maya nodded enthusiastically. "We could call it Voices Unbound or something like that. I'm sure people would want to join." The name reverberated within him, igniting a sense of ownership he had never felt before. Perhaps this was his chance not just to connect with others, but to cement a transformation within himself. Yet beneath this spark of excitement lingered the frightening truth: David couldn't control how others would react. Those who had bullied him before could rise again like specters from the depths of his memory. Yeah, but what if people don't show up? Or what if the same bullies come back to mock us? The doubt escaped his lips before he could stop it, a cold splash of fear against the warm glow of ambition. Maya's expression turned earnest, her brow furrowed. What if it doesn't matter? What if we do it for ourselves, for those who need it, regardless of what anyone else says? Her words resonated within him, pulling him deeper into contemplation. He considered her perspective a realm where their expression was not defined by the fear of judgment, but rather driven by the need for connection. It was a radical shift in how he approached self-worth. Maybe the purpose could outweigh the fear, a chance to find strength through shared vulnerabilities, perhaps even allowing him to confront the remnants of his past. As the wind rustled the leaves overhead, David felt the urge to act surge within him again. Let's brainstorm a plan. We can write up a proposal, set up some posters, and maybe organize a meeting at the end of the week. That's the spirit. Maya exclaimed, enthusiasm bubbling over. Let's lay the foundation, and then we can decide how to spread the word. They spent the next hour drafting ideas and envisioning the club, each exchanged thought birthing a new thread of possibility. Yet, lurking beneath their burgeoning excitement was a tension that refused to dissipate. Would the courage to change also invite conflict? Had he truly shed the remnants of his past, or was he merely postponing the inevitable confrontation? When the bell rang again, signaling the end of lunch and the return to classes, David stood, his throat dry as cotton. He felt both exhilarated and terrified, buoyed by his newfound ambition while haunted by the ghosts of his past still lurking in the shadows. He had taken the first steps, but they were only the beginning. As they walked into the crowded hall, David couldn't shake the sensation that this endeavor might draw unwanted attention, not just from potential supporters but also from those who reveled in his vulnerability. How many battles did he still have left to fight? The question echoed ominously as he glanced over his shoulder, catching a glimpse of the lead bully lurking in the distance, watching intently. And he knew, deep down, the time had come to face the very shadows he wished to evade. David's determination solidified as he faced the lead bully lingering at the edge of the hallway. The momentary thrill that had fueled him faded into apprehension as fear clawed at his resolve, yet he knew he could not falter. This was not merely about him, it was about something greater. As he marched forward, buoyed by Maya's earlier encouragement, he felt an all-encompassing shift within him. Every footstep echoed his growth, transforming vulnerabilities into tenacious strength. He was no longer just the soldier haunted by the scars of combat, he was a guardian of stories, not only Lily's but his own as well. Confronting the bully head-on, David felt an unsettling mix of anxiety and exhilaration. "You don't get to intimidate us anymore," he declared, voice steady, reiterating the commitment to foster a culture of support. The bully's facade of bravado wavered, and the turning tide was palpable. He was forcing more than just a reaction, it was a shift in perception. "What's your new club, Voices Unbound?" "Cute," the bully sneered, but David's heart raced for a different reason. In that moment it wasn't just about standing against the mockery, it was about laying the foundation for change. It's about recognition, about giving everyone a platform to share their stories. "You cannot control our narratives," he declared. The words left his mouth like a battle cry, a declaration of independence from the limitations of silence that had burdened him for too long. Even as the bully scoffed, there was an unmistakable unease in the air. David saw the shift among peers, the whispers grew louder, echoing back to him validating murmurs of support. It ignited something within him that demanded continuation. This conflict was not just his fight, it ignited a collective impulse toward courage. As the bully's laughter faltered, David leaned closer. "Next time you think about belittling someone, remember, we are here to stand together. And you can either join or be left behind." David knew his strength no longer hinged on physical power, it came from embracing vulnerability, both his and those of his peers. In the ensuing silence, David felt liberated by the authenticity of his words. They were not just a defense mechanism but an invitation to community, a lifeline for those willing to join in a dialogue that offered healing rather than ridicule. As he stood firm, he felt the echo of applause from unseen supporters, waves of solidarity washed over him, confirming that he belonged. Days flowed into weeks, and the momentum behind Voices Unbound grew. the club became a safe haven where students shared, created, and listened without prejudice. David had not only faced his past but had transformed it into a powerful tool to uplift others. He witnessed Lily blossom into a formidable artist, showcasing her magic tree mural, a symbol of their shared journey. As he presented the mural at the school assembly, his heart swelled with pride. The crowd's silence morphed into a resounding cheer, resonating deep within him. He had carved out space for others to thrive, expanding the bounds of courage beyond his own fragile frame. Recognition flooded in as teachers commended the club for fostering creativity and resilience. Students flooded the sign-up sheet, eager to join, to share their voices. David had not just altered the atmosphere, he had ignited a revolution rooted in understanding, compassion, and the recognition of shared human experience. Each sketch, each story, became a testament not only to healing but to self-acceptance. He reveled in the certainty that he had conquered shadows that once restrained him. The journey had reshaped him, melding past fears with present strength, all forged into a profound purpose. In the fading light of a comforting autumn evening, David sat on a park bench, sketching the silhouettes of trees against the backdrop of a settling sun. With Rex beside him, he witnessed life burgeoning in hues of resilience. They had transcended the fear of past battles, they had conquered. He had not only found his strength but nurtured it in others. This was the moment David understood the weight of true achievement. Not merely surviving the trials that sought to define him, but flourishing in a space constructed on the foundations of shared vulnerability and belief. He sat tall, a resolve as sturdy as the trees around him, a guardian of new beginnings. And for the first time, he felt like the hero of his own story. Now is the moment to celebrate your growth. Don't wait another second. Subscribe immediately to join our journey through exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for transformative tales. Your engagement matters. Comment below with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about David's journey. Each voice contributes to our community. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to experience the power of personal overcoming stories. You need to spread this message.